Awesome. Okay, so I wanted to start off with a story for all of you before I get into some of the details here. And again, I do want you to feel open to ask questions, so don't worry about interrupting or stopping anything. I am here to support you guys, and I will take you through material. I will share some of my experiences with you, and if you have any questions whatsoever and how I can help you, please just to unmute yourself and say, hey, Kimberly, I have a question. So just feel free to do that at any time. So the story that I wanted to share is, so this session also, by the way, is intended more for corporate clubs, but I will make sure that it is relevant for all clubs. It's just that typically our corporate friends come to our TLIs and we focus very heavily on the community side more so than the corporate side. So I'll just change the emphasis a bit, but I guarantee you it will be relevant for everybody involved. So just wanted to start with that. So my story is, so I work for Canada Post, as I mentioned, and I'm a finance director by trade, but I love to recruit people. And that actually started through Toastmasters. And I think it started actually when I started the club for Ottawa young professionals. And it was a lot of fun reaching out on LinkedIn and different social media sources on the internet. So I learned a lot about recruiting at that time. But from a corporate setting, that really came into play for me this last fall, where at Canada Post, I discovered that our club there, Mail Talk, was struggling a bit with membership. So we were actually going to get down to 5 members in October in 2018. So I decided to coach the club along with my very good friend Jen Bisson, and we worked together with the club executive there to help rebuild the membership levels. And so I'm happy to say that we went from 5 members to 25 members by the end of June, and we were also President's Distinguished. And so it's a good news story, and I'm going to share some thoughts about why I think that happened. And then I will share more tidbits as we go along in the content that I've pulled together for you. So the first thing that I did was I went and sought senior executive support. I think this is so critical, especially when it comes to corporate clubs. And it needs to come from the top for sure. So I approached our chief HR officer, told her about Toastmasters, and she, of course, provided that support. She said, you know, feel free to reach out to anyone on my team. She sent an email to her team and said, hey, Kimberly's working on the Toastmasters program. Please do work with her. So obviously the HR function is a very key component of helping any corporate club in their membership levels. So obviously any corporation that has a Toastmasters club had an intent when it started out, and they brought the members and got them together to form this club. Now, if your club is struggling, it's because likely the senior executive maybe has lost their focus on what Toastmasters is bringing to them. So first point I think is important is to make sure the awareness is brought back to the attention of the senior executive. So having a few senior executive sponsors is very important. They can help open doors that if you aren't at the senior level, they can help you connect with the right people. If you aren't feeling comfortable with doing those kinds of conversations with the senior executive, you can if you have the connections but you're not comfortable talking about it, you can certainly reach out and ask for help. I know Tanya Hall, who is our club growth director this year, is a fabulous resource for that, and she has a great team that will help you with that. And if you don't have the connections, then that's where the fun networking skills come into play. So you can chat with your boss or anyone else, but try to find a network to get to that senior level. It's also a great opportunity to, you know, use Toastmasters as a reason to reach out to them. So if you're looking to advance in your career, yet another great opportunity to try and get in touch with the right kinds of people. So the other thing I did was I approached one of the senior executives that is known for his public speaking capabilities. And he was really excited about Toastmasters and the prospects of it. And so what we did was we started with a kickoff info session. So it wasn't really a Toastmasters meeting, but we started with an info session at noon hour, and we wanted to just raise awareness. So again, if your club is struggling as a corporate club, really you need to raise awareness to Toastmasters and what it brings to your career from a mentorship side. There's so many benefits, as we all know, that it can bring. And so we raised awareness using just about any mediums possible. At Canada Post, we have an intra post where we communicate what's going on at head office. We also used posters. So again, we used a well-known person to share their picture and give a little bit of a header as to why they should want to come and listen. And again, we sent out emails to most of the senior executive to share with their teams. And of course, HR was a big partner in this as well. So we raised enough awareness that I think that first session we got about 75 people participating. So of course, we had that senior executive sponsor join us, along with Chris Ford, who, if you don't know him, he's a fabulous speaker and leader within the district. And so we got a really good reception, and we ended off with someone a little more part of the target market. We were looking to attract officers and managers at Canada Post who are interested in development and growth. So we had someone come in and share their story there as well, so that they could understand what they could learn themselves personally. And then immediately following that info session, we invited them to come to our next official club meeting as an open house style, where they could actually see a real meeting in action. And so that really generated a lot of action. I think we had about, eight or 10 new members that came just in that first week of activity. And then it took us a bit of time to get, the rest, the other 10. So that happened throughout the year. We hosted open houses and really generated a lot of, like I said, awareness, posted posters in the lunchrooms and all of that. So there was a lot of work done, not just by myself, of course, by the entire club. And when you have 5 members, it can be a little daunting and challenging because when you have 20 members, it's a lot easier. You can spread out the work. But when you're at 5 members, it can be really challenging. So I am really excited to say that we have turned it around. We brought in a lot of exciting new members and from all functions across the company. So it's become a bit of a fun networking opportunity as well as the leadership side. So, we've come a long way. We still have a ways to go in terms of how we want to develop our program. But I'm happy to say that we're at the above the 20 mark, which I think is a great starting point. I think 25, if you were to ask me what's a good number to aim for in terms of membership, 25 is a really good number, just because there will be inevitable turnover as people move on with their careers in other cities or life happens. So I think 25 is always a good number to shoot for at the very least. Toastmasters requires us to have 20 in order to be recognized as part of the Distinguished Club program. But again, I think 25 is a good number to shoot for. So that being said, I will ask if there's anyone that has any questions. Otherwise, I will get right into the content. All right. So today, again, I'm going to share different aspects of the VPPR, the VP Public Relations, and the VP membership roles and responsibilities, along with some resources. So does anyone out there have any thoughts as to what the role of the VPPR is? And don't make me feel lonely here.
Well, it's the person responsible to, it's a voice to go outside of the meeting.
Yeah.
Get off the walls and speak out about Toastmasters.
Yeah, so spread the word outside of the club.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Also, I like the idea to put information on Facebook or put poster at the library or whatever
Mm-hmm.
to talk about our open houses
Yeah, for sure.
and activities.
Okay. Else wanna take a stab at this one? Hit your unmute if you. I haven't been hearing anyone, so you have to hit your unmute button.
So I'm still here. I'm thinking the public relation VP is responsible of a relation with the club, with other clubs, and most probably different organization with the club.
Perfect. All right, well, so that's the VPPR, VP Public Relations. So it's anything outside the club. It can also be club communication with members, as we've heard, publicize it at the public library. There's all kinds that we can do, also social media. Also managing the club's online presence. So if you have a website or anything else like that, it's also making sure that the information on those communication mediums are kept up to date so that people know how to find you and when you meet. So next question I have, again, please work with your mute and unmute buttons. What do you think the role of the VP membership is?
To guide the new members.
Guide the new members, yeah, that's great.
Recruit members?
Recruit members, sure. One more.
Ensure that the club meets its membership target.
Yes, that sounds good. So here's a few things that I had added to that. So membership building campaigns. So again, recruiting new members, as we heard. Any special club events. So as I talked about, we had a lot of open houses. I know a lot of clubs also do special events during the summer because it's a lot of fun. And I'll admit to you, me personally, I joined Toastmasters because of a summer barbecue meeting. It was outside in a park and they had a barbecue and some games and then a meeting. And it was just so much fun and great to meet the members of that club and make some connections. And I still say to this day that I have been a member for 10 years because of the friendships and the community that I experienced. So I think those special meetings are really important. And then some other areas here, guest and new member packages. So that was another key thing, just to make sure that when guests do come through the door, that you have information for them and that they feel welcome and that they understand what's involved in your club and that they feel welcome to come back. And that they, of course, have that application form. So that's a really important part of this. Another one that I really use a lot of is having an email list. So if anyone's expressed interest, if I've used Eventbrite for getting people to register for an open house, or if people come and visit, make sure you get their information so you can contact them again. Follow-up is so key for the VP of membership. So the club mission, I think this is an important thing just to review. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and self-growth, personal growth, sorry. So I think it's really important always to have that in the back of your mind in terms of guiding how you want to proceed and how you want to support your club. All right. So again, I don't know how many of your clubs out there are struggling or not, but these are some really good words of wisdom, I think, from Lance Miller that I read, and just want to show you guys. So 3 reasons why clubs fail. So number 1, no one owns the club. And I think to me what that means is we need to see, like, especially the executive, that's you guys, feel ownership towards the club, and that you bring your own flavor and your own energy to your role. So, you know, we're going to cover the basics, but really what you do with it is up to you. So if you want to learn and develop and experiment with some things, you know, Toastmasters is a great way to do that and work on skills that maybe you would like to develop further. Number two, no one promotes the club. So again, your VP public relations out there, we need to make sure that we're promoting, but it's not just on you. We need all of the members of the club to get out there, bring their friends. We need to talk it up. It's funny. I will always talk about Toastmasters. Even when I had a really bad ski accident this year, I was in the hospital bed in tons of pain and telling my nurse about Toastmasters. And to the point where she's now, I think she's already joined my home club if she hasn't already. And so, you know, you can find members just about anywhere. The last one here, the club doesn't follow the Toastmasters program. So this is another key point. In my experience, if members aren't actively on the agenda, there's a higher likelihood that they won't even attend the meeting. And so if they fall off that agenda, if they're not doing prepared speeches on a fairly regular cadence, I mean, obviously we don't want to push them too hard, but I think it's always good to give a nudge to make sure that people are on the agenda quite regularly and speaking as often as we can find spots for them. So if we don't have enough room on our own agenda, there's always other clubs as well that they could go and speak at if we need more speaking spots. But that's kind of my thoughts here. So as he says, own plus promote plus follow program equals success. So in case, here's an overview, I guess, on the Distinguished Club Program. So as I mentioned, the minimum requirement to qualify for this program, you have to have 20 members, or you have to have a net growth of 5 new members by next June 30th. So if you are a club that is below 20 members, let's say you have 10 members right now, throughout the course of the year, you need to net an additional 5. So if you lose 2, you still need to add 5 on top of that, so you'll have to get 7. So just to make sure that's clear, you can be below the 20, but again, you need to have a net growth of 5 members. And for both of your roles, we are very interested to see how membership looks. So there's 2 points in the DCP for membership. One is for 4 new members and another point for another new members. And then, of course, the training, you also have an impact on that by attending the training here as well. So if you're wondering, how do I make an impact on how my club does, these are the areas that you have a direct influence on. Obviously, your personal goals can influence the education awards and other areas. But one thing I want to say about the DCP is it's really not about the points. I mean, it's nice to get points and we all like to be driven by something. But I will say that I think this is really based on many years of research by Toastmasters and experience with Toastmasters International, where they find you need to have at least 20 members really to be a healthy club. And I can say with my experience of seeing how clubs operate and function with less than 10 members or over 20 members, it just gets a lot easier when you're above the 20 members. When you're less, then it's just more work, as I've said, more work to go around. And it's a lot more tiring. It can maybe even be draining a bit, and it becomes maybe a little less fun. Not saying it's not possible, but I just do think it's good to be above the 20 mark if you possibly can get there. No worries if you're not. Let's keep working towards getting there. But I think at the end of the day, having 20 members, again, the work can be spread out a little more and the word of mouth starts to take off a lot more too. So just, I do think there's reasons why we go for that minimum requirement. And then on the membership side, there is, of course, the expectation that there will be turnover. So by saying there's points for a total of 8 new members, obviously that's assuming that there is going to be people that do end up leaving over the course of the year. So don't be discouraged. Just realize that we always need to be recruiting. I've had clubs that were in the 30 member range, and they were like, well, we need to stop recruiting or advertising, and I said, whoa, that's dangerous talk, because we can't assume everybody's going to stay over the course of the year. So it's important to keep the foot on the pedal and keep the word of mouth going, and have those that's what works for you. I mean, every club is different, but that's what I would encourage you to consider. And this is what the report looks like. If you want to look at how your club is doing, you can see in the middle here, this is for a few years ago for my Management Development for Women club. We had a base of 19 at the time, and to date we got to 21. So we met the requirements, and if we look at the new members, we did attract 8 new members as needed that year. So from a membership perspective that year, we did really well. We had a total goal, actually, how many do we had 4, 6. We had 6 met here, as we can see, so that got us to the distinguished level. If we had gotten to 7, we would be select distinguished, and of course 9 is president's distinguished. So you can find this report by looking up club reports for Toastmasters, and we're District 61. So it's just important to remember we're District 61. So that's a great resource to use just to track how you're doing throughout the year. All right, so I just did a little chart here describing how the 2 roles fit together, and I really enjoy doing these sessions together because I do think the 2 roles really need to work very closely together, and it could even be done together by one person. It's a lot of work, but if anyone was to ask me if I wanted to do 2 roles for my club, what would be the best 2 to go together, and I would say VPPR and VP membership. So so just to go through the list here, obviously VPPR manages all club communications, internal and external, brings the guests into the club. You use mailing lists to distribute information to the members and guests. You publicize special events and the overall website and social media sites. And then on the VP membership side, of course, managing the whole new membership application. So you'd obviously work with the treasurer as well to manage the payment. You guide the guests through the membership process, provide information through the guest packages. You'll manage the mailing list, so keeping track of the guests with the direct follow-up, make sure that they know that you want them to come back and warmly welcome them, and hopefully that they keep coming back and you can attract them to become members. And organize special events along with, again, the member and guest email list and website access if you're using Free Toast Host. That's something that a lot of clubs do use, and it's important to give new members access to that. You heard one of the feedback earlier is also make sure new members are familiar with the program. So I've heard even some clubs like to set up a pathways session where they'll go through how to go through the material on pathways. So find someone in your club that's really fluent with pathways, and they can show all the new members on how to use that, maybe an hour session or something outside the club meeting. So that's another thing that I've heard people do. So as far as membership building, and actually before I continue, I'll just pause for a moment. Is there any questions on the content that I've covered so far? Just again, remember to hit unmute. Okay. Well, so you ask me, well, how do I build membership? And I'll say, well, it depends. If you're a corporate club or a community club, it will definitely depend what tools you want to use. But again, as I mentioned, open houses is a great way to bring in a lot of guests. It's Also, for clubs that have less membership, it's probably a little easier to do it this way because you can then bring in some guest speakers from around Toastmasters to help you fill in some of the roles. Again, if you only have 5 members, you may not be able to show guests what a full energetic meeting might look like, so you can bring in other Toastmasters to come in and help. And I think it's also great to blitz the advertising, use Eventbrite to track who's intending to come. And yeah, so it's a great way to focus, especially with lower membership levels. Speechcraft. Well, Speechcraft, I am a big believer in this one. If you aren't aware of it, it's basically Toastmasters on steroids. It's a 6-week program where non-members do 3 speeches and they do evaluations. It's a great program to go back over the fundamentals and the basics. And I will tell you, I started an entire new club based on Speechcraft. So I needed to do it as part of my first DTM. And I ran it at work for my team. And I did not realize how much of a team building aspect this would bring, because my team wasn't used to talking about different stories with each other, and evaluating each other was another great thing. And you know, we really had a great time learning together. And so my team were the ones that said, hey, we should start a new club. So we went out and started the Young Professionals as a result of Speechcraft. So it's a great tool to help build clubs. And it's also a great tool if you want to bring in some more new members. I think people who don't know about Toastmasters might be a little more inclined to sign up for like a 6-week course, and then they can decide after that. And I think a lot of people do end up joining after participating in that program. Special events, I've already mentioned a little bit about that. So it's an event outside the regular club meeting. For the corporate clubs out there, again, you might want to consider even just a little more free flow info session. I think that's a great way to drive awareness and interest. For my Canada Post Club, we meet after work from 4 to 5. So it was good to have it at noon hour, because it just was a different time frame to see if people were interested in Toastmasters. So yeah, and then the email chain, this one's also great. Always make sure you keep in touch with guests and anyone who's expressed interest in your club. And of course, word of mouth, that doesn't cost a dime. And usually you sharing your personal stories is by far the best marketing tool that you can use. So I think for both roles, I would encourage you to create a plan for yourself. And I will always say, like, I've had people tell me these roles are so big. And I say, well, they can be. But it's usually because we haven't thought about what it is that we want to achieve at the beginning of the year. And we don't ask for help. That's something that I have taken my time in learning myself. But I will tell you, there's nothing more bonding in a club than when everyone's pulling together. So there's probably members in your club who aren't on the executive, and maybe they have their reasons for doing that, or they felt maybe the role was too big. But what better way to get them involved than by having them form a part of your committee? So find out how much time they do have and form some kind of role that could help you with your role as VP Public Relations or VP membership. So that's just a thought that I have there for you. So developing a strategy from a membership side, of course, as I mentioned, the committee there, I think it's a good thing to do to spread out the load a bit. Conducting a member survey through the Moments of Truth. Moments of Truth is fabulous for getting the whole club to think together as far as how well you think you're doing, and it has very relevant questions. So if you aren't familiar with that, I'd encourage you to Google it. Just look up Moments of Truth Toastmasters, and there will be plenty of information on that out there for you. It's a great thing you can do over the course of a club meeting, very interactive. And if you want some help, you can also ask your area director to come in and help you if you'd like, or someone else from the district for sure. Create membership building campaign. So that one there, again, do you want to do open houses? Do you want to reward your members for bringing in a certain amount of guests. There's any kind of ideas that you have, just build your plan around that. You probably have had things that have worked in the past and things that haven't. Just because I say open houses worked for the clubs that I've worked on doesn't necessarily mean that's the only option. I think there's lots of options out there, and it's always good to collaborate with other clubs to find out what are they doing that might work. Create a club calendar of events. Again, if you have special events, always great to communicate that both with your members and with guests as well, so that they know that there's some really cool things coming up that they will want to participate in. And as I mentioned before, create guest welcome kits. I think that's also really good. And order any required materials. So Tanya mentioned to me there's actually free materials available from time to time through Toastmasters International. So if you're putting in an order, you can always check to see if there's some free promotional materials that they can share with you. The other thing I want to mention, sorry, I didn't say it about the guest packages, is I will actually also print the first icebreaker project. It is readily available for anyone as a PDF online, so it is free for you to share that with guests. It's also a great quick tool to use if they become a member, that they can get up there, do their icebreaker right away. The other thing that I found is successful when a guest comes through the doors is to get them participating in table topics. Anything to get them speaking helps them see, oh, you know what, actually it's not that bad, it's actually kind of fun, and you get them hooked early. So those are just some tricks and tips that you may want to consider. So from the public relations side, obviously, again, set your goals, identify your target market. This is important. A lot of Toastmasters clubs, I don't know, do this as well as they could maybe. Sometimes it's a very generic name, like that it's just a location, and you still want to think about, well, who is it that we really are targeting? If you say we're going to target everybody, we'll accept anyone, of course we will. But when you're advertising and trying to reach out to certain people, it's really hard to do that much of a blanket advertising campaign. So for me, I've always found having a niche market is great because it brings like-minded people together. So it's just something to consider. Even with my corporate club at Canada Post, again, we defined our target market as officer level and manager level that are looking to progress. So progressing could be promotion, or it could be just personal development in their career. So again, we did define who our target market was. Think about your PR budget. So this is important to do at this time of year because you're setting your dues for the club. I imagine your due renewal period will be in October. So you want to know how much of that money is going to be allocated to you being able to do public relations. Again, if it's a corporate club, you may not need to do as much from a financial, dues side of things. That might be more so advertising with posters if that's how you choose to do it. Or you might decide you want to have lunch. There could be other things that will cost money as part of your special events. Create a publicity calendar. Identify communication mediums. So again, do you want to have a platform on social media? If so, which social media do you want to use? You don't want to spread yourself too thin because, again, every platform you select will take some time to make sure that it's up to date. And there's nothing worse than having out-of-date information about your club out there. So yeah, those are some of the things. Be persistent. Of course, that's a key word that I like to use. You need to be persistent. If something doesn't work, maybe try again. Maybe it just was timing, or maybe you need to try a different approach. But it's a lot of fun when you view it as fun and you think about how can I learn. I think that's one way to look at it. And don't be discouraged if the first way doesn't work. There's many ways to attract new people to your clubs. Talk a little bit about social media. Again, LinkedIn for me has been very successful from a corporate standpoint. And this one here is great for more of the one-on-one. So I will reach out to individual people by searching Canada Post, for example. So I'll search Canada Post and then I will let them know when the club is meeting and I'll share some personal tidbits on that. LinkedIn is not a great source for advertising. It is a function that's out there, but it is quite expensive. Facebook is one that I like to use a little more for community clubs, I'd say, but not to say the Canada Post wouldn't benefit from it, or any other corporate club, but I don't know that it's quite as relevant. But this one here, I think, has worked really well for targeting audiences out there, so you can boost your event. And it does cost a bit of money. I'm not going to say it doesn't. About $50 for an event is not an unseen amount. But this one here is a great tool for targeting. You can say what area of the city you want to target, or if you want to target an age group. I mean, that may not be as relevant for some areas, but yeah, so that was that thought there. One I did not put on here is Meetup. This one is something I just learned about recently, and it is not as expensive as I thought. They actually have a discount for first-time sign-up. So if you sign up for 6 months, Meetup is a great tool as well. There's some advertising that they do for you as well. So that's another thing that it's important to consider as well. But again, that one cost, I believe, about $80. So just to give you an idea as to cost of these different mediums as well. The club website, as I mentioned, Free Toast Host is a great way to use for your own club website. There's it's set up by Toastmasters, so there's a lot of great resources on here. You can actually even manage your email list through this. You can identify who's your guest list versus your member list. And of course, you can also manage your meeting agendas, which is more for the VP education. But again, lots of great tools on here. Of course, as you can see, this is my home club's front page. We always advertise when the next meeting is and the location of it, so that it's very easy to find out where we are and when we meet. So this is just a little bit on the responsibilities of the two positions. So for the public relations before club meetings, as I keep saying, we want to make sure that our online presence is correct. So before you even worry about how pretty it is, think about, is my next meeting well advertised? Is it correct? The location, the time, the date, all that information needs to be correct if there's nothing else you do. So please, please do that. And also ordering promotional materials. As I mentioned, there could be some great stuff for you at Toastmasters International that you can use. And there's also times that it's free. So just keep an eye on that when you are making an order. For VP membership, make a list of new members. The guest packages, which keeps coming up. They also have a recommended one through Toastmasters International. Also keep in touch with former guests and former members who have not been attending the meetings. So these are ways to reconnect, maybe if you have a special event coming up or an anniversary or a picnic, something maybe a little less formal that they might like to come back and reconnect and, you know, experience that community aspect as well. During the club meeting, so public relations, distribute your promotional materials, report results. So obviously if you've been having different strategies, you want to report on how those are doing. And again, finding volunteers to help you out with either keeping up the website or the social media. It's always great to ask for help. The membership side, of course, greeting all guests and members. You know what, this isn't just your job, by the way. We need all members to be making sure all guests feel welcome. Sometimes I think it's a little easy to get comfortable with each other and you want to go and have a chat with someone. Maybe you haven't talked to them for a week. Totally understandable. Free Post Toasties is a great way to also stay connected with everybody. I think it, again, brings that community side through. And yeah, so answer any questions guests may have. But again, this is a team sport, so make sure that you're also coaching your fellow members to be welcoming guests as well. One thing, a little tip for everybody is to make sure that you have the, I guess, the membership form readily available for everybody in the event that you aren't at that meeting. And also make sure that your fee schedule is well known. I actually put my fee schedule right onto that. I just paste it on there on the computer, so that way then if anyone has that form, they know exactly what the fee is for that month. So as you know, it's a declining balance throughout the year. So if we join at a certain point, it's not the same amount every month for Toastmasters International. So that's another key thing to consider, is to make sure that all members have access to the form and are aware of how to help guests become members. Because if a guest wants to become a member, we want to make sure that nobody's a bottleneck, and we want to make sure that we help them and they know what the process is and what's the price of that as well. And outside the club meeting for public relations, again, this one is important. Again, if you've asked for help and you have committees, they have an idea now what it is that you do. And great way to start training for your next position for next year. It's never too early to start to find somebody who might be interested in taking on your role for next year. So that's applicable for both public relations and membership. And from the membership side, of course, outside the meeting, work with the guests to answer any questions, pick up the phone, give them a call, or send them a note. The phone seems to be an underrated source these days. I know when someone calls me, I'm freaking out, like, why is someone calling me? And it's really a shame, because there's nothing better than having a voice to talk to about questions that you may have, or sharing life experiences. Just does not quite replace email, or email does not replace the phone conversation, or face-to-face for that matter. So try to make those personal connections as best you can. And yeah, so always invite the guests to join the club. Of course, they can visit a few times, but don't be afraid to say, are you interested in joining? We would love to have you join. You would bring such a great, quality or something to the club. Obviously, if you think, yeah, I think it's just important to make them aware that you would love to have them join. Even if you're okay if they want to visit a few times, just know that we are welcoming them to join without it being the big sales pitch. Always make it personal. It's always the better way to go, I'd say. And further items here, promote the membership goals. So again, if you are hoping to grow the club by 8 members, as part of the DCP, for example, then make sure that everybody is aware of what it is we're trying to achieve together. And yeah, so membership building contests is also a way to do this, and always keeping track of your guests. And as part of the executive committee, so I think it's good to meet as an executive on a somewhat regular basis, just to connect with everybody and make sure everyone's aware of what the other is doing. So the public relations, of course, share your report on all the activities that you have going on. So one year, what I did was I had goals in terms of how large I wanted the email list to be, for example. So I said I had a target of attracting this many people to the email list. I had this many hopefully would visit our club. And then, of course, this many to join. So I had certain targets that I had set for myself. And always promoting new ideas, of course, with the executive. Maybe other members of the executive have ideas to help you with as well. You're not alone. You should always feel like you're part of a team. So that's why it's good to meet as an executive. And from a membership perspective, obviously the membership contests and campaigns, and we're keeping everybody apprised on the club membership. So that could be how many new members, who's active, who seems to be inactive. As you come to October, you should probably have a pretty good idea how many are going to be renewing. Work together with the treasurer when it's time to collect those dues. I would say start doing that in October or August already, because it's October 1st, comes really quick. And so yeah, so some of my clubs actually reduce the membership amount, taking off the club amount, just to give a little extra incentive to sign up earlier the better, because there's a lot of work that goes into collecting all those dues from all the members. And again, you want to make sure that if someone's on the fence about renewing, that you want to go and understand whether they're still being, their needs are still being met and they're still achieving their goals. Back to something I said earlier, are they getting on the agenda? And if they aren't putting themselves there, hopefully somebody's reaching out to see if they would maybe like to give them a nudge. You know, learn about them, understand what makes them tick, what their goals are, what they're interested in. I often will just ask them to speak about a certain topic because I know that they're passionate about it, and it's hard for them to say no. And additional resources, again, any question you have really is available on Google. I mean, whether it's through the Toastmasters International website or other districts or our own district. In fact, our own district has lots of fabulous resources as well. If you just Google District 61 Toastmasters, you will find all kinds of resources there, whether it's pathways, whether it's webinars. There's a whole, I think there's over 50 webinars for years. That's another great resource that you can use if you have any question on any topic, really. So that is it for my content for now, I believe. Oh, there's a bit more resources there. So I will pass it over to you guys again. Do you guys have any questions that maybe on topic that I didn't go into deep enough or didn't touch on? I am open to your questions at this time.
Hi, Kimberly. It's Linda Ritzik speaking here. I have a question for you in terms of advertisement on Facebook. Do we need to use the Toastmasters logo if we're advertising like on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter?
No, you do not. And in fact, there is some strict rules about when to use the logo. I just put Toastmasters into the title is a word, and it suffices for that. But if you have any questions, there's a lot of information on promotion through Toastmasters as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have a question on membership. Let's say if a club has 12 active members and they get in 5 more. So are they then able to get on the distinguished club plan, even though they have 17 members now?
Yes. So if they started the year at 12 in their base, and they ended the year on June 30th with 17, they qualify for the DCP.
Okay.
If you lose members along the way, though, you need to add more. So you still need 17 is the magic number. So if you start with 12 and you go down to 10, you still have to get to 17.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kimberly, how important is the club new member induction ceremony and who should run it?
Ah, I love that question. I think it is so important. I think recognition is probably one of the most foundational part of the program. And I think you can have a lot of fun. It can actually make a club very unique in how you handle it. I'll tell you a story. In my Young Professionals Club that I joined in Winnipeg, that's actually where I'm from, I first joined Toastmasters 10 years ago in Winnipeg in a club called the Young Professionals. And we had wine glasses with Young Professionals Toastmasters on it. And so it was just a nice personalized little token, and I still have it today, and I always smile when I use it. I think it's a great way to just build that unique presence that your club has. And that's something I want to say. Every club has their different value proposition that that differentiates you from any other club. We all follow, of course, the same Toastmasters education program, but understand that you want to be unique. You want to provide a certain value proposition for the people that you're trying to attract. I think the more of a place in this earth that people feel in your club, I think the more I think they'll stay longer, in my opinion, because I've made such great friends through my clubs. And I think that's just a great way to do it. And I think that induction ceremony is where it can all begin. And who should do it? Well, anyone can do it. I think VP membership makes the most sense to do it, but I've seen also other clubs do it through their president as well. So, you know, I don't think there's any rules about it, but to my mind, VP membership makes the most sense. Any other questions? I guess I have a question for you guys. One of our challenges is retention. So while there is an expectation that we won't be able to retain all of our members throughout the year, we still have a very high turnover rate at Toastmasters. And again, it's expected people will have lives and move on. But to me, when turnover is related to people not achieving their goals or other reasons, that's when I think we need to work together to figure out how can we create a better environment to retain our members. So just curious if anyone has any thoughts or tips of what you've done with your clubs to reduce the amount of turnover that you're experiencing.
Someone said that the VP education is the VP membership retention. If the VP education keeps members participating, growing, and learning, then that will promote member retention.
I like that. Anyone else have a thought about that? All right.
My other suggestion is the Toastmasters International website stores the club meeting location, date and time, and phone number.
Mm-hmm.
So someone on the club executive should keep that up to date.
That's a very good point. Thanks for that. Is that Peter?
Yeah.
It sounds like Peter's voice. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good point. So that's also, sorry?
Yes, I would like to contribute on that. I am Arsene here.
Sure.
I think we have the same problem in our club currently, and we've been thinking about why is that we can't retain members. And at the corporate point of view, I will believe there could be maybe some other reason behind, but like anything else in life, generally, if you spend money for something, you like to have value. Whether the amount that you're spending has given the value of what you has already expected from. So sometime I will think that maybe some people will think that, okay, they may not want maybe to spend that much money for the amount of knowledge we're getting out of the club training or whatever they may see that not working for them. Or for some members, most probably it could be about a timing issue, like they're being at the meeting, but maybe the timing does not work well for them as well. So there could be a different small reason why people may not, may drop out from the membership. But
yeah, I know, I agree. There's a lot of different reasons why people end up leaving. Of course, I think number one is if they aren't achieving what it is that they set out to do. So one of the things that I do is I will do a membership survey and ask the members what it is that they're looking for. I do that I think we do that from time to time as a club. The other thing that I like to do is with the application form, I will also add a survey to that and ask what their goals are, including how often they'd like to speak, how active they want to be in meetings, how often they want to attend meetings, because not everybody can attend every meeting. I think if we know that from the outset, nobody feels bad if they're not attending. So I think it's really, really important for the VP membership in particular to keep the finger on the pulse of what everybody's goals are and go from there. So all that to say, I think we are at the end of our time. I want to thank everybody for participating. This was a bit new for me, trying to make it a little more interactive, so we'll keep working at it. And I want to thank all of you for signing in. I hope you took away some tidbits. Please, please do reach out. Any questions you have, thoughts you have, I will share my slides with you. I'll send it to the group as well. And yeah, so thanks again for attending, and I wish you nothing but the best this year. And please, like I said, reach out if you have any questions throughout the year. The district is here to help you for sure, your area director. And yeah, so I wish you nothing but the best. Thanks
Thank you
again.
very much, Kim. That was
Okay.
excellent.
Great.
Thanks very much, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Hey, how about that?
Well, I had a feeling it was going to get interesting.
So I'm curious how Frank did. So Sue's went fine
Okay, good.
and got, I don't know, 30 odd people on. So the primary lesson learned is to do a concurrent meeting, it appears that it's not possible to do it from one account, but requires as many accounts as meeting sessions without having the rooms feature.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did we not have the room feature, or?
No, we haven't bought it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, money.
Is it a big cost, or?
Well, it was, I'll look in my text stream here. It was, okay. Hey, lots of text today. Okay, so this is, so that's the participants, the rooms feature. All right. Oh, it was $50 more in the month in which it was used.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you give me a room? I could easily have used my own account, but.
Oh, I just used my own account.
Okay.
So,
And Craig had his own.
Yes, you could have. So what we can say to two of the presenters for Thursday is to log in with your own account, be a host. We have to send out a new link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank God people got the email. So Sue's worked really well, I assume, because that was the main link. So you were fine?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, as it turns out, I had 3 computers running.
Okay.
And I assumed that on different computers, or at least different browser sessions, which I could have done from one computer, that we could run multiple meetings from the one account. That was false.
Yes.
And so just to absolutely ensure the separateness that I theorized would work but didn't, I ran it on 3 different computers, and I was walking around. And then when I got to the second login, and it said, "Oh, you got another meeting running. The only options are to cancel or to close that other meeting." I went, "Oh no." All right, Craig, don't panic. Just work the problem. Work the problem. Will be our greatest moment here. This is not a time for failure.
Well, I'm just counting here. I did write down the names. I don't know if you capture them or not, but I did write down the names.
I did.
Okay, so I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have about 19.
Okay, so you got more than me. I'm guessing people joined after. So that was one of the lessons I realized as I was capturing names. I thought, am I going to get them all? What happens when someone comes in and they just bail after this moment that I captured? What happens if I don't capture someone's name and they do enter into the meeting?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Well, I mean, maybe have a little bit of an honor system here. I'm thinking about sending out, obviously, the evaluation form. I think it's still important to do that.